Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holehouse. So you've probably seen by now that they're talking about the new scary pandemic. You've got the whistleblowers that came out to Alex Jones coming from the TSA and other government organizations talking about how the Biden admin is really preparing for a new round of mandates and lockdowns and fear just in time for the 2024 election. Now, we know that the first pandemic was largely created through psychological operations, through manipulation of numbers, through, oh my goodness, the flu disappeared, yet we all of a sudden have all these COVID cases. But the concern is that this round two could be something far worse because it might relate to what was put into the vaccines. And so according to my guest today, attorney Todd Callender, one of my favorite guests to talk to, that's exactly what it is that the first round was just setting the stage for round two, and all the vaccines actually have something contained within them that through the use of 5G, and he goes into the details of exactly how this works, that the next pandemic can actually be unleashed upon people. And so he's brought all kinds of documents and information we're going to be reviewing to show us that this isn't just some tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. It's something that you can find the patents, the government notes, the research that has been done in this already. It's already out there. So folks, I hope you enjoy this interview with attorney Todd Callender. All right, folks, let's jump in to attorney Todd Callender. So Todd, as usual, it's just great to have you back on the show.
Happy to be here. Lots to share with you today, Seth.
There always is. There always is. So, gosh, there's always about a thousand things we can talk about, but something that you've been discussing has really been making the waves. And I think it's a good place for us to start. And then we can kind of go into the ripples around this. And that is the Marburg pandemic, but specifically the use of 5G technology in combination with some aspects of the technology that was in the vaccines, and basically how that could be used to create a pandemic with these kind of 1 minute pulses, I think. I'll let you explain. So what it sounds like it's crazy and out of a science fiction novel, but so does most of my life right now. So I'll let you kind of walk us through what this is.
Well, that's good. I'm happy to do that. And thank you for the opportunity to do that. And I hope that you'll share what it is I'm sending to you with as many people as care to look at it. Don't make it up out of thin air. This actually comes from documents, from evidence. And, as a lawyer, I say things very carefully, and generally only things that I can prove with some level of certainty and evidence. And that's my obligation, to have some reasonable amount of certainty as to what it is I'm saying. And so as it relates to pandemics, as it relates to what it is we've been through, this one's kind of easy. This is a knockdown. I don't have to speculate whether or not Bill Gates next time is going to happen. Mr. Biden, small b, by the way, just said the other day, the next pandemic is coming. Was because they are plandemics. How does one know that? I know it with absolute certainty because, as I just sent to you, you will find in the Federal Register on December 9 of 2020, our Congress published through the Administrative Procedures Act on Wednesday, December 9. There, lo and behold, is a declaration of a Marburg pandemic. Here it is. It's right there. And it happened already. I think there's been 10 Marburg deaths over 40 years. So this is not what you would call a pandemic. But nonetheless, the Secretary of Health and Human Services saw fit to make such a declaration all the way back in 2020, after we were already in a coronavirus pandemic. So we had conjoining pandemics. They must have an expertise in Ebola. So yes, this is they're preparing for this to happen is the answer to the question. And what we had found some time ago, again in the course of our litigation, whistleblowers came from near and far, and we just had a lot of research that we were doing on all things that could potentially have some bearing, which included electronic warfare and EMF radiation that coincided with the biological things that we were seeing happening as well. And we'd found a a litany of papers. We're directed to a litany of papers that make reference to the use of 18 gigahertz signals in the 5G system to cause the swelling of lipid nanoparticles. So in the hydrogel, right, all of the shots that they used as the kill shots, I call them, right, for COVID, shared some commonalities. Those commonalities were the use of lipid nanoparticles to carry synthetic DNA and RNA to reprogram people's bodies. You think about these little lipid nanoparticles as little bombers. They're covered in fat. They were mainlined into people's veins, and then they were able to slip inside of the nucleus of a person's cell, deploy their payload, drop their payload, and that's what caused the genetic changes. Synthetic mRNA and synthetic DNA, adenovirus DNA, is what did this, depending on the brand. So what we came to find at the same time was that these same lipid nanoparticles were filled with all kinds of different pathogens. It wasn't just 3 different HIV proteins. It wasn't just these spike proteins. It wasn't coronavirus. It was these strange chimeric diseases. When I say chimeric, part viral, part bacterial, Staphylococcus, Ebola, Marburg, E. coli. And these were patents and scientific papers talking about sticking these things inside of lipid nanoparticles for a later release. That later release, we found all the scientific papers that point to the use of an 18 gigahertz signal, which causes those lipid nanoparticles to swell. And when they swell, they release their contents. So effectively, I think Dr. Chambers called it a timed release or a remote release. You know, he's a Green Beret medical doctor. This would allow a standoff that you could at some point remotely and distantly cause the release of Marburg or any other disease, because the patents were quite broad. It wasn't just Marburg, it wasn't just Ebola, Lassa, and other hemorrhagic fevers. It was a variety of pathogens.